Oh, the wonderful thing about the Edinburgh Festival and Fringe is I get to meet so many interesting characters, and this will sound like I'm a bit of a stalker, but I was watching this chap earlier on as I was on the train on live at the Apollo, so you've got to be big if you do live at the Apollo, and his name is Chris McCausland, and he is Speaky Blinder at the Edinburgh Festival this year. So welcome to the studio, Chris.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks for coming in. And well, I mean, you've done live at the Apollo. What was that like?
It was incredible, really. It was the biggest audience I've done. So it was 3,500 people, and the brilliant thing about that is, you know, even if you make a quarter of them laugh, it's nearly 1,000. So it's relatively speaking, you know, a nerve-wracking gig to build up to doing, but the easiest gig you can do once you get that first laugh or two. You know, it's a cinch, really.
I hope you don't mind me saying this, Chris, but when I was watching you and the chap came out on stage, he was behind you, and then you sat down, and then I realised, oh, actually, this guy doesn't have his sight.
Yes, yeah. So you make it sound like a pantomime now. He's behind you or something. But
No,
no, I get guided out onto the stage, and because they haven't got the risk assessment in place for me to do that myself. And there's always a little bit of apprehension from an audience, like, oh, what's going on here, or what's this gonna be, and so there's always a little bit of tension, or, you know, the ice that needs breaking at the beginning. So I always have an opening joke that deals with that and kind of puts the audience at ease, really, or just, you know, just nips it in the bud, and then I can move on to other stuff. And me comedy does tend to, I mean, there is stuff in it, generally speaking, about me not being able to see, but that's not the be-all and end-all. So what I find is if I make that joke at the beginning, I can just move on to other stuff. And then when I come back to talking about things that are related to being blind, it's people are more interested if you haven't just rammed it down their throat from the beginning. You know what I mean? It becomes boring, it becomes predictable, so... How do I word this, I suppose? Do you think, you've mentioned this in fact yourself, in terms of feeling perhaps that slight tension, but do people kind of pussyfoot around you? Does that make sense? In terms of audiences? Yeah. Or, maybe they might think twice before heckling. You know, they might think they're going to burn in hell or something like that if they shout stuff out at the blind guy. But no, it's. I mean, heckling is a little bit of a myth anyway, in terms of like professional clubs. Most people who are shouting things out anyway are shouting things out because they think they're joining in and being funny, rather than being aggressive or horrible. Because, you know, once you get to a certain level, you know, the comedians tend to be of a decent, good enough professional of standard to kind of, you know, give off the impression and to the audience that you know. It better be funny if you've got something to say. You know, don't just be shouting any old rubbish out at me, because I'll destroy you. So it does tend to be a little bit of a myth with the heckling. But in terms of my relationship with them, I think it's also because I don't encourage it. So a lot of comedians will go on stage and they'll go into the audience and are you were there, and what do you do for a living, and where did you get that top, and they'll talk to the audience, whereas I don't do that because I can't see them, and it's a natural defense mechanism of any audience member to just shut down, and if an audience member shuts down, and they're not giving me any audio feedback, I've got nowhere to go with them, you know. So I stay out of it. I pretend they're not there, basically.
I think that's quite clever, actually. Now that I think about it, that's a great way of getting control.
Yeah. I mean, what it does is, I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years, and it means that over 15 years. I haven't really developed the skills that you would think of a compere as having, like an MC of a night, you know, hosting and just talking to the audience and finding out more about them and ad-libbing that kind of conversation with the audience. But I've developed a lot more my written comedy skills, because I don't depend on that to start off a set or a show, if you see what I mean. Yeah. I start off straight from the blocks with prepared written material, which other comedians, you know, might work their way up to, in terms of, like, I'll do 5 or 10 minutes of chatting and then I'll build into that. So so what I'm saying is, if anyone does want to come and watch me show, you can sit in the front and I'm not going to pick on you, really. So
tell us what you're talking about, this wonderful prepared, I don't want to say script, I'm quite sure you go off on tangents, I can tell. So what are you talking about this year at the festival then?
Right, well, the show is the show's called Peaky Blinder, which is obviously a play on that TV show called Peaky Blinders. We've taken the S off the end and stuck it on the beginning. It's quite clever. I'd like to say that I came up with it, but I didn't. It was another comedian called Justin Morehouse who came up with that. He said, "I've got a title for your Edinburgh show," and when I told a few people, it made them chuckle and they liked it. But the show is. It's a stand-up show, and it's kind of in two halves. So the first half is very much stand-up about me, my life at home. So me becoming a dad and my daughter's horrific marathon labour that we went through, and my life as a pasty white Scouse bloke being married to a hot-blooded Brazilian. And
that's right, she's from Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of biological differences going on, you know. So there's the first half of the show is stand up, very much about my life in my family life in that respect, and then the second half of the show I go on to explore a little bit more about how specifically how me being blind does affect me as a dad, or does affect me as a husband. So it's still stand up, but it's a little bit more in terms of a unique perspective, really, I suppose, as opposed to just talking about parenting. What the hell's that word? Parenting. It is a word now. In a general sense, it's a lot more my unique perspective. So
I think you absolutely got it right. But parenting is a tough job and it's a tough word. That's exactly. I think you've summed it up perfectly. The show is on at the Underbelly.
Yes, 6:35 to 7:35. And it's been filling up nice. It's been the audience has been really, really receptive and really positive about the show, and it's I'd say my demographic is the kind of 35, 45, 55 up to whatever age. So if you reckon you fit that bill, come along and watch. If you're after your tight jeans and your hair gel comedian, then there might be something on next door. So
yeah, you're an absolute inspiration, and thanks so much for coming in to chat to us. I totally wish you all the best with your show.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.